I'm just waiting for some of them to, join the webinar, and then we can start. But nonetheless, we can talk while we
Yeah.
are waiting for them. If you want to, first of all, what made you join this webinar? It would be good to know that.
No, so I have been a big follower of your reporting. I think you do some commendable work. And so when this when I read about you doing this, again, ground reporting on COVID-19, I got me interested to
Mhm.
really know more about it. What is it really out there? Because there's that much we know, what we read, and but to know from somebody who really goes out there and does it,
Mhm.
uh, you know, all by herself, I think will be really interesting to know. So that was one reason why I thought let's register and have it, hear it out from you.
Thank you so much for joining this webinar. And I would also love to share, the entire journey since March 24th.
Yeah,
It had
yeah,
not been easy for anybody, and none
yeah,
of us, the lockdown period. It's first. It's we have experienced it for the first time, all of us,
no, yeah, correct, correct.
and it was really tough to decide certain
Mm.
things because all of us are made of blood and flesh.
Yeah,
It happened to anybody. And when it started in March, and it was, we didn't know much about this disease,
mm,
and
mm,
all of us were in learning phase. But yeah, good that we have come so far, safe.
mm. So what has been the learning for you from March 24th till date?
Learning, if you be more specific in terms of journalism, in terms of personal experience,
I think personal experience would be interesting to know. Poonam. Yeah.
uh, I would love to share all those things, and
Mm, mm.
maybe I have to repeat myself later because I'm expecting
Yeah, yeah.
these questions from others
So
also.
we park it for now. Let's wait for others to join. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, we can park it. But if you want to ask anything else, but how have you been? Like, what do you do?
Well, I run a HR company, um, and we manage HR at Quint, by the way.
Rajneesh, okay. Okay.
So yeah, so that is what it is. I mean, yeah. So I run a HR company. Yeah,
Okay,
and
okay.
and of course Quint is home for me. So
Yes, of course. So for HR people, it would have been work from home, would have been easier, much easier compared.
yes, and I think having known my HR colleagues at other places, I think the moment the first unlock happened, I think HR guys were at the forefront to really prepare the workplace for people to come back.
Mhm.
So I have been hearing some amazing stories of even HR people doing some great stuff, going out there to the workplace and ensuring all precautions, and because it is so much a people's story, so
Mhm.
you want to ensure that the employees are safe and we don't have any cases happening. So I see this whole thing so much a HR thing also, and HR guys have been supremely busy. I think in these times, as the unlock kept, I think opening up more and more. So yeah,
Yes, and moreover, most of the offices have now started functioning, if not 5 or 6
correct,
days a week, they're functioning at least 3 days a week, alternate.
correct, correct. And yes, so for places to go 100% full capacity is going to take time, but yes, like you said, quite a few places have opened up and taking all precautions. Of course, the main thing is the social distancing and the hygiene. So I think everybody's taking all care, I think.
And some of the offices, they have reported COVID positive cases also while they are running. So how do they work
Yes,
if
yes.
somebody?
So yeah, so I guess it's a matter of now people really taking a call that the business continuity needs to be there. So that's a call. Unless an organization really has a massive spike, I think those places have taken two steps back also. But I hear majority of the places, even if one odd cases have happened, people have recovered through home quarantine,
Mhm.
and the company continued as is. So my sense is home quarantine is helping a lot of people. I think if it is early stage of detection, people are are recovering. So at least one client I've seen 2-3 cases happening, and all of them recovered. They just went into home quarantine. They just stopped coming to office, and I think things were normal.
Yeah. But and you don't see anytime soon like offices working full-fledged and till the time vaccine is there.
Yeah, that's going to take that will take time, for sure. I think that is a given. I think this whole year, I don't know next year also how soon. And with this whole thing happening around vaccine being treated so lightly and casually, I think that's making people all the more nervous as to where we are headed.
Yeah,
So
and that's a concern.
yeah, that's a
Till
concern.
the time we
So
get vaccine, I don't think so. It will be a normal thing.
yeah, yeah. So I think all that is going to take time. So let's see. So
Yeah.
100% capacity, yeah, I mean, probably a year away still. I mean, maybe next year's financial Q1, Q2. So I think a year is still away. I mean, we're still away from
Correct.
that. Yeah.
It's an unfortunate thing, but we have to. Now people have started living with it. That's what I strongly.
Absolutely, absolutely. People have accepted it that there is a challenge, but then they also feel you can come out of it. Yeah, I mean, you're getting both stories. You see people passing away. You see also people coming back. So you have both the stories going actually.
Nothing is stopping them anymore.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not at all. No.
People have gradually they've
Yeah,
started coming out as well. Like I was yesterday in the central Delhi, I
yeah.
press club. If you know, the crowd was
Yes.
people are
Yeah,
reaching out and
yeah.
everything is now. Some people are taking precaution. They are taking precaution, but people are not stopping themselves anymore. And
Absolutely.
that Delhi cases are going down, and
Mm-hmm.
pressure is not there on the hospital. So somewhere this confidence has come that the death rate is less and
Yes.
cases are more, recoveries are more.
Yeah.
That is giving some amount of relief to people.
Absolutely.
So I'm just,
And I guess I don't know. The immunity thing is also giving people a lot of confidence. So, I mean, the other thing that people figuring out that if you have these major other complications, then you are a serious case. If you are not, then you are fine. So I think people who don't have serious complications, their confidence levels have gone up. And they feel they have the immunity and they can handle it, or So I guess that has also affected people.
yes, absolutely. Immunity level and exactly 1 second, just
Yeah. Go
so the immunity is one thing, but again, what I strongly feel is also that we, especially in South Asia, like if you see in Asian countries,
ahead.
the number of asymptomatic cases are pretty high.
Hmm.
That
Hmm.
is also there. I do not know whether it's BCG or anything else, but number of
Hmm.
cases are pretty high symptomatic cases. So that is also one of the factors which we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know why there isn't enough research on certain things which are required in case
Correct.
like we still do not know for how long does the infection stay on the surfaces, different kind of surfaces. There's no
Yes. Yes.
study on it.
Yeah.
So every time you step in home, like you do not know whether you're carrying or not, whether there isn't, you go and take shower and that's it.
Yeah.
Best thing to do. But I'm just saying some amount of knowledge is required on that aspect as well.
True. True. Fully agree with you.
Yeah,
Fully
and
agree with it.
everything has not played any role. These
Hmm.
were the talks during summer, but that's not there.
Hmm.
So, well, maybe we can, I can answer your question. Maybe others will take time to
Sure.
join. As well, the personal front is concerned, Rajneesh, like I live in Delhi. I live with a friend. So the
Hmm.
big factor,
Hmm.
initially, as you know, in the office also, we were told not to step out like as a precaution, and we were reporting from home. And then the migrant issue started and everything, things were going on. But, you know, the biggest problem with home reporting is that as a journalist, I've been a journalist,
Mm. Mm. Yeah.
you just do not get the clear picture.
Mm.
And you feel that there's something missing.
Mm.
So, you know, after thinking through it, and since I live with a friend only, and she's of my age, and no elderly person at my home, no kids. So that was a big advantage for me.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
the biggest fear that most of us carry is that I should not be the reason to infect anybody else.
Mm. Very true.
That's the biggest fear. At least I
Mm.
have that fear. So
Mm.
then I spoke to my senior. He said that if you are fine with it, if you feel that you can manage it, then you can go. So I started with the migrant worker story, the NGOs
Mm.
distributing food and everything. You know, the first report when I did, I could feel that, you know, it is important to step out and see what is happening. The
Mm.
ground report is the report which is the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
People don't know what's happening outside because most of us were not stepping out. We do
Yeah.
not know what's happening. So when I went out, I could see these NGO workers who were, you know, working day in and day out. Even
Mm.
they are human beings. They were
Yeah.
distributing food and they were talking to migrant workers. They were getting in the crowd, the cops as well. Although they always have, they were criticized for their behavior. But I
Mm.
saw
Mm.
many of these cops on field, you know, giving their best. So
Yeah.
there were moments, you know, when I felt like, you know, I should keep my camera aside and join these NGO workers in distributing food because that's the need.
Yeah.
That is what is important at that moment. So the biggest push was, you know, there was a pull, there was a push.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
People are stopping me and then, no, you should not step out. What if you get infected? How will you manage this? And
Mm.
again, there weren't enough testing kits also.
Mm.
You will be by yourself, you know, and you'll end up infecting your friend as well. But of course, I took her permission that, look, I'm going out. If you're,
Mm.
because if I get infected, you will be infected. So the support system was there from her side as well, that
Yeah.
you step out. That's not a problem. If at all we get infected, we'll recover. So
Mm. Mm.
that
Mm.
was there,
Mm.
you know. But yes, this thing was always in the back of my mind that I should not be the reason to infect anyone.
Anyone. Yeah. Yeah.
I should not. So, and I do have personal life. I do have, you know, some of, I love kids. So there were
Mm.
friends, kids whom I could not meet for long. I could not
Mm.
even think of meeting them.
Meeting. Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one reason. This is one of the reasons why I could, you know, step
Mm.
out and do maximum ground report.
Yeah.
There
Yeah.
was one at home who elderly, especially no one elderly.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so. So then that brings me to the reporting part of it, Poonam. So I think your experience again, since you were, I'm sure, doing the whole groundwork largely in NCR. I don't know if it was only Delhi
Mm.
or if you went out. So I think to hear from you, your interactions with the healthcare people, with the patients, I think what was your again experience on that front? Would love to hear that.
See, when initially it was all about migrant workers and everyone,
Mm.
when the cases started rising in Delhi,
Mm.
that was the time when I felt that it is important because there were all kinds of news and all kinds of videos which were surfacing that so this and this patient has been denied admission. And I was also in touch with some of the
Mm.
patients at the time,
Mm. Yeah.
especially LNJP, because LNJP was the first COVID hospital. So uh, then it was important for me to visit these hospitals
Yeah.
because if you do not visit these hospitals, how will you actually know the condition
Absolutely.
of these hospitals? So my my first visit was to LNJP hospital, and LNJP, I went there in the month of June, if I'm
Mm.
not mistaken. And that is the time when I wasn't allowed to get inside the hospital
mm,
campus with camera because media was not allowed. But the kind of rush and the patients, the problem that they were facing, that there was no communication between the patient's family and the doctors. They
mm,
were at lost, and they did not know how to, communicate with their patients who were inside.
inside, yeah.
And that time, the protocol was that any patient's family are supposed to stay in quarantine. But
Mm,
that's not what was happening. I met many patients' family. They said my family member, whosoever was tested positive, was admitted. I wasn't told to be quarantined. And some of them, they were having this problem that if I quarantine myself, then who will take
mm,
care of my patient? Who will give
mm,
him food? So
yeah.
that problem was there. Then again, when I pitched this story to my bosses that I want to go and do this story, then
Mm,
of course the concern was there that you are going very close to a COVID hospital. How will you work? Then I said, okay, my camera person said that we'll wear PP kit. Now,
mm,
wearing PP kit and reporting in
yeah.
Delhi in summer, that to 45 degree was
Mm, yeah. Yeah.
insane. That was insane. So
Yeah.
I could not wear it for more than 20 minutes.
Wow. Mm,
Outside LNJP hospital, I was there. Patients were
mm,
coming, patients were going out. In fact,
mm,
one of the patients we had direct contact. So the moment he said that I'm the patient, I stepped back. You know,
mm, mm.
that fear was spontaneous.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you are the patient, and then that was that is something I've never faced in my.
Yeah. Yeah.
Then I'm stepping back when I'm patient.
Correct.
So that where PPE kit, wearing PPE, then that was the last time I wore PPE kit while reporting. I knew that that's just not happening.
Mm,
Not
mm,
happening.
mm.
And yeah, had I been entering the hospital, then I would have
Yeah.
followed the guidelines of the doctor.
Correct. Correct.
But outside the hospital, I could see that patients getting, traveling through autos, and they are coming through autos and
Mm, mm,
autos. Like I was just wondering, where are we living? What kind of
mm,
precautions are we going to take? So
mm.
taking public transport and commuting, these that clearly showed that there aren't enough ambulances.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Yeah.
So that time, I feel that was the most dangerous time in Delhi.
Mm,
Cases
mm.
were rising to 4,000 per day.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Thankfully,
this was June, I guess.
yeah, this was June.
Mm,
I went to two hospitals, LNJP and GTB hospital.
mm, mm,
And GTB was another experience that they were admitting patients who were having breathing problem. They
mm,
weren't tested positive. So
mm, mm,
patients had different kind of fear that what if I am not positive and still
mm,
they might get infected inside the hospital. So that was a different kind of fear which the
mm,
and you know how government hospital they function. They don't
mm.
have much empathy towards
Correct. Correct. Yeah. Yeah. And I'm sure you would have seen body bags coming out and then being handed over to relatives. How was that experience again? I mean, we read people struggling at the at the cremation places or burial places. Again, anything that you followed up or
yeah.
reported on that also? Yeah.
COVID graveyard you're talking about, and COVID graveyard. Honestly, Rajneesh, that time when I came back home,
Hmm.
I felt that probably I got infected. I I went there for shoot at in the afternoon,
Yeah. Yeah.
11:30, 12,
Yeah.
and I did not share this with my bosses. Yeah, bosses.
Uh,
So I went there for shoot at around 12:30, and
hmm.
it was hot. The temperature
Hmm.
was around 40
Yeah.
plus,
Yeah.
and wearing mask. And you must have seen, if you have seen the graveyard video, or you can
Hmm.
see, I'll tell my colleague to put that graveyard video in the chat box.
Sure.
It was hot, and
Hmm.
I was wearing mask, not PPE kit, only mask, and
Hmm.
the graveyard was open. There wasn't
Hmm.
any no shade. There was just one tree.
One tree, yeah.
Shade. And I was there for 3-4 hours. The dust was there. I met so many
Wow.
patients. That
Mm,
dust was also killing patients coming
mm,
with body, and
mm,
that
mm,
that that place was like, of course, you just don't you just have a different
mm,
feeling when you visit graveyard
mm,
ground.
mm, mm.
So over there, like I met few of the family members, and some of them, in fact, one young boy who committed suicide.
Mhm.
He, his family member said that he committed suicide, but still we were sent to the COVID graveyard. But later on,
Wow.
we met with their hospital. They said
Okay.
that he was tested, so he
Oh,
was
okay.
not COVID positive. Hence, he was sent to that graveyard.
Okay.
In
So
that,
there have been clearly designated COVID graveyard kind of thing also.
yes, and that time,
Oh, okay.
the imam who was there, he told me that they received 15 bodies in a day on some.
My wow.
They beyond 15, they could not, bury beyond 15 bodies, so they refused them and they asked them to come the next day.
Wow.
So that was the highest number in one
Mm,
day.
mm,
And they said that we are falling short of the space. Very soon we would be needing more space in Delhi and all that.
mm,
So that is the time when I went there. I was, maybe it was a psychological thing after
mm,
coming back,
mm.
bath and all that, and I was not feeling good. I was feeling very fatigued. So I said, when,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it can be. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. True.
so, but thankfully it was not. I
Yeah.
know because I did not develop any other thing, but I was fatigued badly. It could be
Yeah. 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 It can be emotionally quite draining.
very draining,
Mm,
staying in that body, and you cannot do last
anything. Mm.
as per the need. I think so. One more guest has joined, Dipankar. Hi,
Sure.
Dipankar. Can you hear me?
Hello. Yes, yes, I can hear you.
Your voice is slightly unclear. You can hear me properly.
This is, yes, I can hear you.
Okay, your voice is slightly unclear, though still. So we were just talking about graveyard, Rajneesh and I, and thank you for joining this webinar. So before I continue, just want to know, Dipankar, what made you join this webinar?
I nothing specific, but I just want to know, just want to learn a little thing. That's all.
Sorry, your voice is not clear though. Still, yeah, you can ask. You can ask any question. We were just talking. Rajneesh and I were talking about the graveyard story, the COVID graveyard which I reported on. So I was just sharing my experience about the visit and reporting on COVID, especially the COVID story. So if you want to ask anything specific, please go ahead. You can write in the chat box also your question if you're not able to hear properly.
Right. Why don't you continue? I just, if I have a question, I'll ask you.
Okay, fine, no problem. So I was just telling about this graveyard story. It was emotionally draining, and it kind of explains because the thing was that the body, the worst thing about the entire process was that the family was not even allowed to see the face of the person who was dead, and that is like they used to wrap the body in the properly, and maximum they could do was just to do a small prayer before burying the body, and that's it, nothing else. So the entire last rite was just a thing like you just go to the graveyard and bury and you come back. So yeah, that is one story which I feel is really, you know, touched me badly, because that's the least you want to do for your loved ones. You're giving them last rites properly. So, but these guys who were there, the imam and everybody, they did not have even proper facility, to stay there because they can't go back to their offices. They had to stay there because of the infection and all that. And there was just one tree where they were sitting, and it was like they used to come in the morning around say 9ish and leave the place around 5 o'clock. All they could do throughout the day was just have water or tea, no food, nothing. And in fact, they said that some of the bodies were, they were brought in by a single person to the graveyard. So in that case, the imam and the assistant used to wear the PP kit and help the family members in burying the body. So that was also a big social work done by these people in the graveyard. And that's one, thankfully, now the number of deaths have come down in Delhi. But that time, the number of deaths was increasing every day, like 40, 50 deaths happening in a day. So that's how, that was one experience I would never, never, ever forget. So Rajneesh, I think I have answered your question.
Yeah, very much, Poonam. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So if you have any other question to ask, please go ahead. So apart from that, yeah, COVID hospital was one experience I will never forget. In fact, after LNJP, I went alone for
Yeah.
that. And actually, I could sense that the government hospital, these healthcare workers were not sympathetic towards
Patients.
and you just cannot make them be someone who's sympathetic towards the patient. So that cannot happen overnight. But that is one of the major problems that these patients who were going to these Sarkari hospitals were facing. No communication, no sympathy, no information. How will the patients work? How will the patient family function? They do not know what to do and what not to do.
So while you say that, did you also get to cover some of the private hospitals and you could see some staff differences?
Yeah, in fact, the private hospitals, you cannot access the hospital. So after LNJP, I went to Gangaram. Gangaram hospital, I went there, I spoke to that time Gangaram was having a legal case against them for not informing Delhi government registered an FIR that they are not informing the correct numbers of the COVID test and all that.
Yeah.
They were struggling with that as well. So that time they were not doing their COVID test. So I went, they had COVID patients went there. So the great difference that what I found that probably I'll share the link also.
Yeah.
The patient was carried from one building to another building. There were 4 people. The patient was wearing a PP kit. He was sitting on a wheelchair.
Yes.
And there was one person behind him who was sprinkling sanitizer.
Yeah.
There was one attendant. There was one doctor with him. There's one person who was pulling the wheelchair. So that is the kind of precaution which was taken in a hospital.
Yeah.
In government hospital, you do not know who's the patient and who is the attendant.
Yeah.
So that is what you can see in the LNJP story, because I ended up talking to one of the patients over there. Struggling to get a bed or a room.
Yeah.
So it was in chaos, but yes, people managed through it. And in fact, there was another story. I remember that time I did not visit LHOP, but somebody known, one of my colleagues, he contacted my colleague and he passed on the number to me. He was a driver, and I did a story on that also. The driver, his name, his name is slipping from my mind. So he called up and he said that I'm being infected and my wife is pregnant. But for the past 24 hours, we are trying to get a bed in government hospital. We are unable to. And right now I'm outside LNJP hospital. That person was sent to 4 different hospitals before he was admitted in LNJP. And they actually struggled the entire night. Imagine the pregnant wife.
Yeah.
See, hospital attendants, they could see that the pregnant wife is there with the COVID positive patient. Still, they after that,
Amazing. Yeah. Yeah.
I ended up calling some of the doctors in the LNJP. I told the number and the name of the patient. Then eventually he was admitted in the same hospital. But this could have been done at least 12 hours before.
Before, absolutely. Absolutely.
And then when wife reached home, I told Delhi government that at least let the family check for COVID or not. I'm sure they must be infected because the husband was infected. They were just asked to stay in isolation. They were asked to stay in quarantine. No tests were done on them. So that was the situation then. Although government claimed to do certain things, but it was not happening on ground.
Which brings me to the other question, Poonam. So beyond the hospitals, when the hospitals were getting choked up and all, the government decided to open up, beds in, I think, I don't know whether stadiums or some Radha Swami satsang place or some hotels or guest houses being converted into COVID places. Did you visit those places and how were the facilities there?
No, I did not visit the Radha Swami, but we were actually, after it opened, nobody is allowed to visit that place.
Okay.
For that, we got all the visuals and we done a video on that. So Radha Swami seems to be a good facility, but although there have been some cases being reported of and all that, as far as the security of the woman is concerned. So that is one problem that has faced, but doctors over there. So they have very decent facility over there. They are able to take the load off the hospital.
Yeah.
I think I spoke to the doctor last week. He was saying around 900 patients are there. So those who are critical, they pass on those patients to the hospital, and those who are that critical, having moderate illness, they're asked to stay in Radha Swami. So that's how the communication and everything, taking the burden off the hospitals is helping. They do not have oxygen facility, they do not have ventilator.
Yeah.
So, and that ITBP guys are very disciplined and they're very good in
Correct.
It's very tough for them. And in fact, I'll just let you know, I was planning to do it, but I couldn't do it yet. The ITBP officials who are on duty, they are on rotational basis. So one person is sent on duty for 8 days, then he's asked to quarantine himself for 14 days, and they are quarantined in a hotel. So this rotation and everything is in a very systematic way. Because I'm sure some of them must have got infected. Although they're wearing PP kits and taking all precautions, but still they are in close contact with patients. So they've been tested also as and when required. And in fact, the ITBP doctor, he told me that apart from the paramedics and the healthcare workers, some of Javans, ITBP Javans, they volunteered. This, which is a great thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you must be doing, or you would have already done a story on these ITBP people, because they're doing some amazing volunteer work, in a way.
From today or a month ago, they've been doing since first case which was reported in India, January. The first group of Indians were brought from China, Wuhan, if you remember. These are the ones who started the quarantine facility in Manesar.
Yes, I remember.
And I spoke to the doctor, Manesar, over there, and he told that time, it was way back in March. And then he said that that time there was shortage of masks and everything, sanitizer. They said that people should not do that right now. They do not do that because the number of cases was around 200 cases in India.
Yeah.
So these guys have been working since then. ITV. And CRPF also, they joined hands in terms of maintaining security, and they were deployed in containment in place. I've been to CRPF camp because in Delhi, the first battalion which became the hotspot was the 31 battalion.
Okay.
Now they did a very systematic way to get themselves out of this crisis. 138 cases were reported there, and out
Yeah.
of 124 were asymptomatic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can understand that these asymptomatic cases who are spreaders, so
Yeah.
they were contained back then in this time so that they do not. Had they moved out, then of course it would have been a big. So these are the things. Certain sources brilliantly, and the kind of dedication that I could see among them was commendable.
Yeah. Investment comment. Absolutely.
And of course, migrant workers' story is a different ballgame altogether.
Mm,
It's
mm,
a big
mm.
disaster.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Most of them whom I spoke to were, you know, Satveer was a big story in the sense like he was the one, like he got massive support from our readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we can never forget the kind of support that he got within 24 hours. And I was flooded with, direct messages on Twitter. And
Wonderful. Mm.
people wanted to donate. In fact, there was a time when we had to inform people that he has got enough fund to look after himself and his family. So maybe you
Mm.
can donate to some other migrant workers.
Mm.
The
Mm.
best part is that he received around 3 lakh rupees as donation.
Mm-hmm.
He started Tubewell. He actually started Tubewell in his
Mm.
field.
Village. Mm-hmm.
We did a story on that. He did not waste any time. He knew what he wants to do and what is good for him, his for his family, for the village, and everything.
Excellent.
You know,
Excellent.
that,
So put it to productive use. Yeah.
immediately without
Mm. Mm.
wasting time.
Yeah.
In fact, he owned a tube well within 2 weeks or so.
Mm. Wow. Wow.
Still in
Touch
touch.
wood.
That's a beautiful thing, and I that story will always be with me, and
Mm.
still in touch with me. And he always insisted that I should come to his village and meet his
Mm.
family and see how it's working. So
Very nice. Mm.
that is a booster.
Mm.
That's what you want as a journalist, that
Ab-
you do something good for people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Good, Poonam. So I think from my side, I got you completely on a one-on-one. I wouldn't have probably got the opportunity to ask so many questions, but it was absolute pleasure.
Yes.
And thank you very much. I think I'll now move on, and I really compliment you on the tremendous work that you keep doing. It's phenomenal stuff that story after story. I've been seeing your work for a long time now. So hats off to you, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, Rajneesh. And it is just being a wonderful ground report journey, I would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Ground
That's the beauty of real journalism, and that is what Quint is all about.
Yeah, and in all of my colleagues, it's just not me who's on ground honesty, and there are other colleagues also
Yeah, yeah.
on ground reporting. Aishwarya was there,
Yes.
was there. They also did ground reports. So, of course, most people have that fear of,
Mm,
as the family is concerned, that they might get infected because of you. So that was one
mm,
of the reasons people did not want to step out.
yeah.
As a journalist, and my colleagues are like, they are always ready to do. We have
Yeah.
one more guest here, Swati. Hi, Swati. And if you could just unmute yourself.
My voice is very bad. I've got bad cold.
Sorry.
My voice is bad. I've got a very bad cold today.
Okay, no problem, Swati. That's fine. So, welcome first of all, and thank you for supporting Quint. And we've been chatting, Rajneesh and Dipankar, they're still here. And Swati, if you have any specific question, since you have that throat, you can text me a question if that is fine with you. And Dipankar, you can also text me a question if you have anything to ask. Feel free
Please
to ask
repeat
me.
what you said because could you please repeat what you said because I couldn't hear you properly.
Repeat my answer. Anything specific? I was just answering to Rajneesh about my journey in doing COVID stories ever since March 24th. So since the lockdown started and all that, so Rajneesh wanted to know something specific about COVID hospitals, my visit to COVID hospitals, and how and I dealt with and the COVID graveyard, migrant workers. I do not know whether you've seen some of my reports on the. So the journey which I had, of course, is it will stay with me forever. And the fact that you actually end up meeting some of the COVID patients right there outside the hospital, and that you're always having that fear that I might get infected and all that. But it so happened that my first COVID hospital was LNJP, Loknayak Jayaprakash Hospital. I do not know whether you're from Delhi or not. So that was the first COVID hospital in Delhi, and it was over flooded. So yeah, when I visited there, of course, as a journalist, we're not allowed to enter the hospital. So we were asked to stay outside. And the first concern that all of us had when we were discussing in office also, that should I wear a PPE kit and then go or not? Then my thinking was that since I'm not getting to the hospital, I'm not getting inside the ward, so maybe I might not wear the PPE kit because might not be required. Had I entered the ward, then I would have followed the rules and regulations which are made by the hospital. But again, the concerns were there. Then eventually we decided, my camera person, fine, we'll wear PPE kit. And I was also being, my colleagues said, no, you're not going without PPE kit. I said, fair enough. So it was way back in June when the cases were rising in Delhi. It was around more than 4,000 cases were reported that time. So wearing a PPE kit in Delhi in June was like terrible. So when we got down at LNG hospital, wore the PPE kit, and trust me, I could not wear it for more than 20 minutes. It was too hot and it was terrible. I was unable to breathe. So my worry was that I was outside the hospital. I was talking to patients and patients' family, attendants, and met all of them. In fact, I ended up meeting a couple of patients there. So after speaking to them, now my fear was that if I do not remove my PPE kit, and this heat will make me faint. I might faint then and there. So that will be a bigger problem. So then I decided to remove my PP kit, and my camera person was wearing it. But of course, that is one experience, as a journalist, we've not faced it ever. We have never faced this ever earlier. And this COVID thing and the lockdown thing is the first experience for all of us. So, yes, after wearing PPE kit, the precautions which we took, but then I removed it. And of course, after that, I took all the precautions. I came back and kept, you know, try to keep a check on my health also. So, one thing which I have done all through my lockdown period, and I do work out regularly, but I used to take gaps earlier. But now, ever since I've started doing stories, I do not miss a day. I work out every day for the simple reason to check whether my health is fine or not. Because that is the biggest indication. If you're not able to work out, the fatigue coming in, then your health will tell you that, okay, there's something wrong with your body, something is required. So I do work out every day just to keep a check on my health. So this is one of the things. And I also drink, kada as a precautionary thing. And apart from that, what I also shared with Rajni is that I stay with a friend and I do not stay with any elderly person who's not in Delhi. So that gives me it gives an added advantage to me that I can step out because that all of us have this fear that we should not end up infecting others. So knowing that, okay, I live with a friend, and of course her permission is there, that I discussed with her that look, I'm going out, I'll be going to places, and I will be meeting these kind of people. So if you're okay, then I might get infected as well. So if you're okay, then I'll go ahead with it. You should be okay with it. So that is one thing I did before venturing into all these kinds of stories. For my safety and for my friend's safety as well. So Swati, I have a question here. I shall be glad if you could share your experience while covering migrant workers, not just what you have already logged in the stories file, but things you felt and stay with you. You may do that and you go, okay. So, Swati, as far as the migrant worker stories are concerned, Tatvir is one of the stories which I would like to say that I've cried, as in not cried, but tears came in my eyes only while doing 3 reports, in my entire career, and Satvir happened to be one. I ended up meeting Satvir at Delhi Noida border, and when I met him, the way he cried in front of me brought tears to my eyes. So that is, uh, as a journalist, we also fight it out sometimes just to do our job. At that point of time, I just wanted, to help him and make him cross the border with his kulfi cart and all that. That is what was going in my mind. So when I spoke to him after recording his interview, I helped him with some food and everything, whatever bit I could do. And I spoke to the cops also about his kulfi cart and that he just wanted to go to Noida. They said that आप इनको यहाँ wait करने दीजिए, a bus will come and take the family across the border, and you don't have to worry. So I asked them that how long will it take and all that. They said ki 3-4 hours the bus will come here, and there are other migrant workers also waiting. I had another assignment as well, and that was in a stadium in Delhi, where migrant workers were kept near Pahad. So I told Satvi, we exchanged the phone numbers. I told him that you wait, I will come back in 2-3 hours. Do not worry, and I'll ensure that you cross the border. Don't worry about it. So I left for the report, and I came back after 4 hours. Tatvir wasn't there. The place was empty. The border was empty. I presume that that all the migrant workers are to on the other side or wherever they wanted to go. And then after that, when I reached home, I called Satvi's number. His phone was unreachable. Again, I tried to call him at night. Thankfully, we managed to speak, and then he told me that actually, I was asked to give back my kulfi card, and he was literally crying over the phone that "Didi, mera thela, they have kept it. That's the only source of earning. Now, how will I survive? How will I do? And they are not letting me go to my uncle's place in Noida Phase 2 because I'll get some source of money, income from there, and they are not letting me. Then I asked him, "Where are you?" Then he said, "I'm in school in Noida. I can't read and write. But I'm in the school, so I'm here." So then I asked him that at least tell me the sector. He told me sector 12. I said, "Okay, fine. I'll come and meet you tomorrow." So that was it. And the next day in the morning, when I called him, he told me that he's on his way to Badaयूं, where his village is. Then he could not talk much about it, and he said कि मैं रास्ते में हूँ, मैं बदायूं पहुँच के आपसे बात करूँगा and all that. That moment I felt like this poor man whose only source of livelihood is a thela, that too was taken away by the cops for no reason. We were able to commute via cars and everything, bike and everything, but that guy is not allowed to take his thela. When I checked with the cop, a senior person, then he told me his reason was that we are not allowing thelas because these guys will roam around in Noida. I said, sir, what do you mean by that? That's no answer. Then he also said, I know, but these are the orders, which was bizarre. So Satvir is one story in itself, just to show again and again that how privileged we are. This discrimination between the privileged and the non-privileged people. That class difference was so much evident there. And it really, it was not just through Satvi's story, but other migrant workers. In fact, I traveled from Delhi till Jharkhand, Ranchi, via car. On the way, I met so many migrant workers and all those shopkeepers, like dhaba walas, and those who had small, you know, shops on the highways. Their survival was a big problem, and nobody was there to help them. So the migrant workers, I feel that lockdown actually was a big eye opener about these migrant workers who are not listed. We have no idea how many of them are here, and the problem and the plight that they went through. Those who walked for kilometers after kilometers, they will think 100 times before coming back to Delhi. In fact, I did a story on these with these factory owners as well. Later on, when lockdown opened in month of May, end of May, they were saying that we do not have workers. How are we going to run factories, and how are we going to manufacture products? And that problem they were facing. When I asked them that, did you help your workers in April, March, when they wanted your help? They did not. They were not paid. They were not paid their salaries. All they were given was ration. Ration is not enough. You need money for your other needs. So when these factory owners did not help their workers when they needed them the most, it is again a big example that how miserably we failed in protecting their rights. And another problem is about the sex workers as well. They are also being provided with ration. How will they survive only on ration? I visited GTB Road, the red light area, to speak to some of these migrant workers. So these, I have one more. Yes, and you class difference, yeah. So this is one of the problems, and as far as the sex workers are concerned, they are not going to get any income, or their livelihood is not there for long, not anytime in near future. So these are the issues which I feel that we need to address. The government needs to step up, and they really need to take care of the people when they are in need. Now that things are going back to not really normal, but they are coming in shape, but some of the issues like sex workers, I do not know how will they survive. So I think, Swati, I've answered your question on migrant workers, at least. Any other question? Dipankar, do you have any question?
I mean, have you thought a little beyond as to what
Dipankar,
the government can do?
Dipankar, if you could just,
Can you hear me?
I can hear your voice is not clear. So if you could just text your answer, sorry, question.
Okay, I'll do that. I'll just text you the question.
Yeah, because I'm unable to hear your voice properly.
I'll just say that.
Swati, do you have any question?
That is disabled.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes, Dipankar.
Can you hear me now?
Have you texted?
Hello.
Have you texted your question?
No. The chat has been disabled. Has it been disabled too?
I cannot hear you, Dipankar, properly. Your voice is not clear.
The chat is disabled.
Okay,
been disabled by you.
you're not able to send your question? Is that so?
Correct. Yes.
You send the question in Q&A section, which is next to the record section.
Okay.
You can send your question there.
Okay.
Okay, Dipankar, your question is that what possible help can be given to this large number? You mean to say that the migrant workers and of course the sex workers and all these guys were facing problems. So of course, see, the problem with the migrant workers was the immediate shutdown without much notice. And what I strongly feel is that had these migrant workers been allowed to travel then in March itself via train, the train should have, I feel that the train should have been allowed to operate then these guys wouldn't have faced that much of a problem. That sudden shutdown was a big issue. And mark my words, had they been allowed to go back to their villages in March, they would have paid train tickets. They would have paid for train tickets to travel back to their village. Because village is where they feel that they were safe. If nothing else, they were at home. That was the biggest assurance for them. So migrant workers, although they started working in June when the lockdown opened in Delhi, they wanted to go back and just be with their families because what they felt the uncertainty of the and the huge amount of rent that they should pay. So that time in the actually did not have any idea of the number of migrant workers they had that time in cities. So that is one issue with mismanagement as far as the migrant workers are concerned. And coming to the sex workers, if we talk specifically about sex workers, nobody wants to give them job or work. Is it not the duty of the government also to take care of them, help them in securing some work? These sex workers whom I spoke, most of them, they want to come out of it because they know that they cannot earn for a long time. So they are looking for other sources of income. One of them belongs to Delhi. They've been trafficked from different places. They want to go back to their city, start their life anew. But whether they will get any job or will they be able to start any small business? And mark my words that most people do not even have a proper ration card. Ration card is another issue. Delhi. So how will they from the government or anywhere? Just get 2 meal, which the Delhi government was giving, and in other places also it was happening. That is not enough for survival. That too for this long. So I feel that instead of coming up with different kind of schemes and everything, had government just distributed cash to these migrant workers. Some of them did get cash, DBT direct payment was made to some of these people, through in their accounts. But cash is what was needed that time. They needed cash in their hands. Ration, two meals was not enough for them. So do I answer your question?
But that is in the past tense. What about now? What is to be done now? That's the main thing.
Well, now everything has opened. Lockdown is open, so most of the factories are working. What government should now think about is not concentrating development only in the cities. They should now think of expanding it to the towns as well, so that these migrant workers do not really need to come to the city for livelihood. That's what they should think about after facing such major migrant worker crisis. That's what they should do. because all these migrant workers, they migrate to urban cities for job. Nothing else. Not that they love the city or the lifestyle over here. As far as the Satvir is concerned, he will never come back to Delhi because he has got his source of livelihood over there. He has his field, he has now tube well for good harvest and everything. So he will never come back to Delhi, and he keeps telling me that I will never come back to Delhi because whatever he has faced, it will never. He's totally discouraged. Now, yes, one concern that he has is that he wants to educate his two children. And education in village is not at of course, that level is not there, but still he's thinking about it, how to manage the education of his kids are concerned. But he wants to stay back in village, which is good. And he has done good to himself, his family, and for the village. He will get good harvest this year. That's what the government need to think about, that we need development not just in cities but in small towns as well. Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
Do you have any other question?
No, thanks. Thanks.
So now, thank you so much, guys, for joining this webinar, and it was a pleasure talking to you both. And Rajneesh has left now. So thank you for supporting Quint and keep supporting us. And that's how that's a big support that we are getting from our members, and we do really need to bring truth to you all. And this is how we are going to continue bringing reports from ground, reporting facts, and also debunking fake news. So thank you so much for joining us, and please keep watching Quint for more stories. Have a very good day.
Welcome. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye.